All right, well, thank you so much for coming. When Sarah asked me to come do dessert at 8 in the morning, I said, well, I hope they're okay with eating dessert that early. She said, I think they'll be able to choke it down. So I'm very glad you could be here. And certainly I'm not going to overpower you with rich, decadent desserts. I'm going to show you some ways to make desserts a lot healthier today. I know that's the recipes in front of you. These are recipes that I've tinkered with myself over the years and made a number of times. I work as a registered dietitian at the O Street Hy-Vee, as some of you probably know. I've been at that store ever since it opened in 2008. So we're going on, so we're a little over 7 years now. And my role has evolved a lot, but I enjoy the opportunity to really bring delicious tasting food to people that is healthy. Certainly a lot of people think that healthy can't be tasty, and I think I will prove that theory wrong today. My first recipe is a skinny tiramisu. This is a recipe that I developed kind of based on a recipe from the Nebraska Soybean Board. So you will notice we are using tofu today, but you will not taste it. This is, gosh, I don't know, I pick a favorite of the 3 recipes, but this one is really, really, really tasty. You'll take a package of extra firm tofu. You want to drain the water out of it. When you open up the package, you'll find it just has some water in there to keep it fresh. If you're not going to use the whole package at once and you're eating tofu, you can leave it in the water, just help it stay moist. There's nothing wrong with that water, but if you're going to make this recipe, you do want to drain the excess water off so your filling is nice and firm. Chills this up, drain the water, and put it in your food processor. You could use a blender if you have a blender, but the food processor works a little bit better in this application to get it all chopped up nicely. Then you'll add in Truvia or any brand of brown sugar baking blend that you'd like. I like Truvia because it's a stevia-based brand. Stevia is a natural sweetener. I was telling everyone about this last week. I grew stevia in my garden last year, so you are lucky that you came week 2 because I brought some. I'm going to pass it around. This is dried stevia that I grew in my garden. You're welcome to try a leaf if you want to. It's very sweet. I had more that I could eat, so I dried a bunch of it, and I have plenty to share if you would like some. It's great in tea. If you brew tea and throw in a few leaves, it makes your tea sweeter. I've also crumbled it up and sprinkled it over things, but it's purely an herb, and so a lot of recipes now are using stevia because it is considered a natural sweetener, not an artificial sweetener. Certainly there's a lot of science behind artificial sweeteners being safe as well, but if I can use a natural sweetener and it tastes good, I certainly prefer to go that route. It does save a lot of sugar and calories at the end of the day if you can use stevia or another no-calorie sweetener to lighten up your desserts. So feel free to check out my dried stevia. It's not drugs, I promise. It kind of looks suspicious, but feel free to enjoy. All right, so we're using the brown sugar baking blend. Notice on it says 75% fewer calories than sugar, so there are still some calories in here. It is the baking blend, and we're using the regular white stevia baking blend as well. Baking blends are twice as sweet as sugar. So if you're trying to substitute in a recipe that calls for a cup of sugar, you use a half a cup of the baking blend. Now the baking blend, it's a blend because it is half stevia and half regular sugar. So there is some real sugar in here. So it does work nicely in baking because sometimes in baking you need some real sugar. You can't just use all stevia and think that it's going to turn out the same. Sugar does have some chemical properties that enhance the browning and flavor and structure of baked goods. So having a little bit of sugar in there helps with that. That's why they say 75% less is because you use half the amount and only half of that is actual sugar. The rest is stevia. So that's what we're using today. I haven't had too many customers that don't like the flavor of it. I think incorporated into recipes, I think most people wouldn't be able to taste it, but if you do, then feel free, you can substitute regular sugar to taste in this recipe. So we'll put that in. It's 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons, so about 6 tablespoons of the Truvia brown sugar baking blend, and a container of mascarpone cheese. Mascarpone is like basically low-fat cream cheese. It's just a fancier Italian version of it. It comes in a little round tub, which I unfortunately did not bring with me this morning. Always one thing that gets accidentally left behind, but it sounds rather decadent, and it is more expensive than low-fat cream cheese. So if you did want to make a substitute or you couldn't find it at the store, you could certainly substitute low-fat cream cheese and achieve a very similar product. It's just a very traditional Italian cheese that's used in tiramisu, and it does have excellent flavor for this application. So we'll blend that all up. This is, I'm going to guess this is tofu, right? Nice and creamy. Our mascarpone, brown sugar, and tofu all blended up until it's nice and creamy. Now we're going to start assembling our tiramisu. I have lady fingers. These are gluten-free lady fingers. They were the ones that we happened to have on the shelf at Hy-Vee this week. You could use regular lady fingers as long as you have a gluten sensitivity. But lady fingers are just light little sponge cakes that are piped out in little fingers, so to speak. So they're not a heavy cake. They're a little bit crisp, which is nice because then they soak up our mixture of espresso and Kahlua that we're going to put over them. Now you'll need about 1 package of those. And this recipe can be adjusted to make larger or smaller amounts pretty easily. You know, if you want to make a bigger pan, buy 2 packages of lady fingers and, you know, use a little more espresso and you've got a bigger batch right away. So that's pretty easy. Now in your instructions for your recipe, I have the way that I made it last week, where I just put the lady fingers in a pan, it's my imaginary pan, and I put the espresso mixture over it and I put the tofu mixture on top. You can do it that way, but I was feeling a little bit creative yesterday, and I thought, well, I wonder if I could do a double layer tiramisu. So I just cut the lady fingers in half, lengthwise, and they're a little bit crunchy, so they kind of crumble. But that's okay. So if you cut them in half like this, you can put down the open halves and the crumbs in your pan. Just use a 9x13 pan. And then they really soak up the espresso and tiramisu mixture even better. So then I put on half the tofu mixture, another layer of the lady fingers, and another layer of the espresso mixture over the top. So that's what you're going to eat today, is the double layer tiramisu. You'll have to let me know how you like it. Because it was a little more work to assemble 2 layers, but I thought it was kind of fun to have 2 layers. So we'll get these in there. If you didn't have lady fingers, I noted in your recipe you could use vanilla wafers. They would work equally well. There's our first layer. This is 3 shots of espresso from our Caribou coffee shop at Hy-Vee. You'll be awake this morning, I hope, but you're not going to eat very much of it. And then I added a little bottle, about 4 tablespoons of Kahlua, which is a coffee liqueur. You could certainly leave that out if you wanted to, but if you're having a special occasion, you want to make your dessert a little bit more decadent, the Kahlua really, really adds nice flavor. I would miss it if I didn't have it, but it would certainly be an easy thing to just skip, and if you hadn't had it with the Kahlua, you'd never know the difference. So we'll just drizzle a little bit over of the espresso Kahlua mixture over our lady fingers. Soak it right up. You can give those a minute or 2 to soak, and we will do a layer of our tofu mascarpone brown sugar mixture. And smooth it over the top. Has anyone had tiramisu at an Italian restaurant? It's pretty darn good. A lot of whipped cream in it. Oh, you know what? I forgot to fold in our whipped cream. Now that I'm talking about whipped cream. Apologies for that. I will fold in, this is cocoa whip. It's a natural whipped cream using coconut milk. Most stores will have some sort of more natural whipped topping alternative to Cool Whip. You can use Cool Whip or Cool Whip Light if you like. The ingredient list is just a little bit full of preservatives and high fructose corn syrup. So if you would like a healthier, more natural approach or alternative, then look in the freezer of your Hy-Vee Health Market and you'll probably find either True Whip or Cocoa Whip, one of the two. Either one makes a great, great substitute. So we'll just fold that into our tofu mixture here. Put it in this bowl. That'll lighten it up a bit more. Tiramisu literally means in Italian, lift me up. So it's supposed to be a very, very nice light dessert. All right, we'll do another layer of our lady fingers here. If you wanted to just assemble these in individual little parfait glasses, that would work too, to serve individual desserts. It's completely up to you. This is not a strict recipe. It's pretty flexible depending on what you have and which way you want to serve it. Correct. Here's a little more espresso mixture over the top here. We're just going to put this bit in the refrigerator to set up. I like to do it overnight, some of the day before, then the flavors really come together and it kind of sets up better so you can cut it. If you don't have time, allow at least a couple of hours for sure for this to set up and come together before you want to serve it. Any questions on my tiramisu? Pretty easy, right? If you've got a food processor, you can make that. Excellent. Well, we'll keep moving on. To serve this, I do like to garnish it with a little cocoa powder on top, just a sprinkle. I like to use my little sifter, this handy device, to sprinkle just a little cocoa powder in here and shake it over the top to garnish it. You could also garnish with chocolate-covered espresso beans. As long as you don't mind that extra little kick of coffee, it adds a nice touch on top just to set a coffee bean on each piece. Our next recipe we're making is no-bake peanut butter chocolate chip cookies. This one is super duper easy. There's a million variations on it that you can find online on Pinterest. This is the one that I found to be easiest and tastiest for me to assemble on a moment's notice. So I hope you'll enjoy as well. This is my favorite brand of peanut butter. So we're going to start out with peanut butter. It is all natural, 2 ingredients, peanuts and salt, but yet you don't have to stir it because it's refrigerated, so the oil doesn't separate. So this is nice and spreadable, just straight from the container, versus that jar that has the rock of peanut and the layer of oil on it that you have to try and stir up.
So you find that then in the refrigerated section?
Refrigerated section of your Hy-Vee Health Market, yep. They sell multiple sizes. This is the big one. I eat a lot of peanut butter, so I have no problem going through the big one between my husband and I in a few months. But I just enjoy the fact that I don't have to worry about trying to stir that layer of oil in, but yet I still just get peanuts and salt. Because anything else you buy on the shelf that is not either refrigerated or separated is going to have palm oil or partially hydrogenated soybean oil in it, one of those 2 ingredients that will keep it from separating. Palm oil is a highly saturated fat, which is viewed as a less healthy fat. So I prefer not to have them add that to my peanut butter. If I can just have my peanuts and salt, that's all I want in my peanut butter. And then, of course, we know partially hydrogenated soybean oil is trans fat, so that's not a healthy alternative either. Oftentimes, we also see added sugars in peanut butter. Dextrose, honey, molasses, even high fructose corn syrup, so and a lot of peanut butters. So check your peanut butter at home, and there might be some ingredients in there you don't necessarily need or want. I think your family would not protest at all with this product right here. It's absolutely delicious. So we're going to start off.
What's that? What's the brand name?
The brand is Old Home. Old Home 100% natural peanut butter. They come in it comes in creamy, crunchy, or they have one with added honey if you want added honey in the peanut butter. And there's multiple sizes. All right, so we'll need about 5 tablespoons. So I'm going to eyeball it. Again, this recipe is pretty forgiving too if you don't exactly measure, which is nice because who wants to wash a bunch of measuring cups? But if you want the nutrition facts to be exactly precise, go ahead and measure. Then I'm going to add honey. You could also use sugar-free maple syrup or sugar-free pancake syrup if you wanted to. There are a variety of options on the shelf in that regard. It's completely up to you. We're just using honey today. 5 tablespoons of that as well. And you'll notice I offered quite a bit of different alternatives here. You can also use almond butter, you can use oat or almond flour. So this is a very flexible recipe depending on what you have in your kitchen, what's available on any given day when you're shopping, or just what you like. It's about 5 tablespoons of honey. This just helps it come together. So you wouldn't want to leave that out. All right, then we do a cup of oat or almond flour. Well, what's the difference? Besides the fact that one comes from oats and one comes from almonds. Almond flour has gained a lot of popularity in recent years because it is gluten-free. Of course, a gluten-free diet has taken off a lot since people started noticing more and more benefits from eliminating gluten from their diet. There is no scientific reason to do so unless you have a sensitivity to gluten or an allergy to gluten. So gluten is a protein found in wheat. So there's no need to do that if you don't have a sensitivity or allergy. If you are, however, trying to cut carbohydrates a little bit to help with blood sugar control or weight loss, almond flour is great because 1/4 cup has only 6 carbohydrates. 1/4 cup of oat flour has 26 carbohydrates. So there's a big difference because almonds have less carbs than oats. Not exactly rocket science there. Almond flour has a nice nutty texture to it. It's really just ground up almonds. If you don't want to buy almond flour, you can take your food processor and put in fresh almonds or raw almonds or roasted almonds, don't care, and just pulverize them until they become a real fine texture, and you can substitute that in any recipe. It works just the same. Usually you just don't achieve quite as fine of texture as if you buy the almond flour product. The same with oats. If you put your quick oats in your food processor and blend them all up, you'll eventually end up with oat flour. Usually not quite as fine of texture again, but if you don't want to buy a special bag of flour just for a recipe, feel free to make that substitution. It works just very nicely as well. So I'm going to use almond flour today. I'll use the 1 cup, and the nutrition facts are for your almond flour. It does have a little more fat than oat flour. You're looking at 14 grams. The oat flour, of course, has 3 grams. But the healthy fat in almonds is rich in vitamin E, a fat-soluble nutrient. So, I don't view it as a bad thing that it is higher in fat. That is also very satisfying, especially in desserts. So you might find yourself feeling more satisfied after eating a dessert that has some good healthy fat in it than eating something that does not. And we're going to add a little protein to our dessert here. Just to, again, help it fill you up a little more, stick with you, make a great snack. I've eaten these 1 or 2 for breakfast before, maybe once or twice. We'll do about a 1/2 cup of vanilla protein powder. I like whey protein. Works nicely. Soy protein would be fine as well. Really just whatever you have and whatever you like. I'm I'm gonna stir this up, and it comes together just like cookie dough. You don't need a mixer for this. It's pretty easy to stir it by hand. However, if you do put it in your mixer, it'll just be a little bit faster. So really up to you here. And we just need a touch of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon. Now I have listed in the ingredient list 1 to 3 tablespoons of baking stevia. This is really up to you. If you taste it right now and you say that's sweet enough for me, you don't have to add this. If you taste it and you want a little more sweetness, just add a little more. It's kind of up to you. It doesn't need to be in there for the structure of the cookie or anything. It just has that last little bit of flavor if you want a touch more sweetness. Any questions about this one? Pretty easy. At the end, we'll add in, once that comes together and go, we'll add in our mini chocolate chips. If you want to leave the chocolate chips out and just do peanut butter cookies, you're certainly welcome to, but they're kind of fun. I do mini chocolate chips because I think the mini chips stick in the cookie dough better than the big chunks of chocolate chip that you get with the larger chips. If you wanted to use dark chocolate, I've never seen dark chocolate mini chips for sale. So you probably just want to buy a bar of dark chocolate and chop it into little pieces and then stir it into your cookie dough. This is what it looks like once you've got it all together a little bit. And then I brought a cookie scoop. Most of us have one of these at home. Just use your cookie scoop to scoop out the cookies. There you go. No baby cookies. If you wanted to roll with your hands in the nice little balls, you sure could. It's an extra step, takes a few more minutes, but if you like them that way, feel free to roll them into pretty little balls. Yeah, they could make this dessert look fancier in a variety of ways by rolling it in sprinkles or garnishing it with a chocolate drizzle, and then depending on how much company you want to impress with it. But this is my quick and easy treat and snack when I want a little something sweet on a daily basis. So you can see the calories there. Each one has 54 calories, 6 carbohydrates, 3 grams of protein, and a gram of fiber. All right, our last recipe here, they did not get last week. Because with the snow day, the day before, on Tuesday, I didn't have as much time to prep as I wanted to on Wednesday to bake the crust. So you are very fortunate that I had time this week to bake the crust because I like this recipe even better than the recipe I made for them last week. So you can tell everyone you got something better. But last week was good. Not gonna lie, this one's extra special. This is my triple berry dessert pizza. Have you had a dessert pizza before? Yes, and it's usually like a sugar cookie crust and cream cheese frosting. And you kind of want to feel healthy eating it because it's got fruit on it, but yet it's still sugar cookies and frosting at the end of the day. So this is very different. You're looking at 135 calories per slice, only 3 grams of sugar. You're going to get a wide variety of different berries on top. Again, we're using the oat and almond flours that I talked about earlier, and reduced fat cream cheese with Greek yogurt. So we'll start off making our crust dough here. 3/4 cup of almond flour. And 1/4 cup of, 3/4 cup oat flour, 1/4 cup almond flour. And there's nothing wrong with using wheat flour. I just find it fun to experiment with different ones. It gives you a little bit different flavor and different texture. The fact that these flours don't have gluten in them makes them a little bit more delicate without that gluten protein. So you've got a really nice, delicate baked good. It's a little more crumbly, but it's just a nice flavor and nice mouthfeel to it that I enjoy. So that's probably why I found a few recipes that don't use wheat flour this time. So we use 3/4 cup of the oat. Now I put a little note at the bottom. If you don't want to buy the flours, take about 1/2 cup of almonds and 1 cup of oats to your food processor and blend and blend and blend until you achieve something that looks kind of like this, just a fine powdery mix. So you just use about 1/4 cup more than what the recipe calls for in terms of flour if you're using your oats or your and/or almonds instead of the ground flour version. All right, then we're going to add a little bit of salt or teaspoon, a 1/2 cup of stevia blend for baking. Now, this is similar to brown sugar again, where it's used half as much as you would if you're substituting for regular sugar. And it has half sugar, half stevia in it. This is just a different brand, the Zing brand. There's a million different brands of stevia. So if you try one brand and you don't like it, you can definitely try another brand because it is like Pepsi and Coke where they do taste a little bit different even though they're essentially the same thing. That blended up. Then here I have baking soda, baking powder, 11. We'll add 2 eggs, or we're going to use about a 1/2 cup of egg substitute because it's easier to transport egg substitute than it is to transport raw eggs in the shell. Whisk. Whisk this together to make our cookie dough crust. I'm going to add in a 1/2 cup of Greek yogurt. Find the spatula. Borrow this guy. This one looks good. All right. This is Hy-Vee plain Greek yogurt. It's nice and thick and creamy. Greek yogurt does have substantially more protein than regular yogurt because a lot of that liquid that makes yogurt thinner is drained away. So you just are left with this nice thick protein mixture that adds good creaminess to baked goods. I also like to use it as a substitute for sour cream in recipes or on baked potatoes or tacos. Add in. And then about 1/2 cup of milk. You can use almond milk, you can use soy milk, you can use cow's milk. Almond milk is the lowest in calories and carbohydrates. So that's what I had in this recipe. Okay. Now this isn't going to come together like a cookie dough. It is a looser batter, so you can't just pour it out on a pan and bake it like a cookie. So we just want to add with a 1/2 teaspoon of almond extract. That just enhances your nice almond flavor from the almond flour. We'll put that in the filling as well, so you can kind of see what this looks like. Almost like pancake batter. I like to bake it in a springform pan because that will keep it from running all over your oven. You could also bake it in a cake pan, no problem, just whatever you have that would work well. The larger the pan, the larger your tart will be. So if you have like a 10-inch or a 9-inch, that would be ideal. I think this one is an 8-inch. This was the one that I found and I had yesterday, but I could find the bottom for, so this is what I use. It really doesn't make too much difference. Just make sure it bakes until it is set in your oven 375. It's a little golden on top. I do like to line my pan with parchment paper because when you use gluten-free flours, the products have a tendency to want to stick to your pan a little bit more than if you're using wheat flour. So you may notice it's a little bit stickier and harder to get out of your baking dish. So parchment paper is great because nothing really sticks to parchment paper. I just cut out a circle like this and then baked my filling in that. So I just pour it in the pan and bake it, 375 for 20 to 25 minutes. Comes out, let it cool. This is what it looks like. I'm going to assemble the frosting. This is my frosting. It is pretty simple. I just mixed together 1 block of Greek yogurt cream cheese. This has double the protein and half the fat of regular cream cheese. 60 calories and 2 tablespoons, which is very comparable to low-fat cream cheese, which is 70 calories for 2 tablespoons. But that extra protein does, add a little bit of health benefit there with that extra protein to help keep you fuller longer. And the Greek yogurt, obviously, a little more calcium and more vitamin D. So that's why I incorporated it in the frosting to give you a healthier frosting or filling. Then I'll add a little bit of lemon juice to that, a little bit of almond extract, and a little bit more of the stevia blend for baking. You just mix it up in a bowl, and this is what we have. It's this easy little mixture. You use this to frost our tart here. I like to put a big dollop in the middle and then spread. Otherwise, if you start out with too little, you'll end up kind of ripping up the top of your tart. So there I got a little bit ripped up. Put a lot on, right to the edges, it looks out nice. Our topping is just going to be fresh berries, whatever berries you have on hand. I brought strawberries, raspberries, and blueberries today. I like to just dry them a little bit on a towel before I put them on the dessert so they don't have any extra water on them after washing them. Otherwise, they can kind of make your frosting looks soggy, which is not cool. You don't need to do anything fancy here. You could just dump them all on top if you want to. But it's kind of fun to put each type of berry differently and dessert. Anyone have any questions? Pretty easy stuff, right? It would be a little bit tricky to use frozen berries in the topping, because frozen berries do give off so much more liquid after they're defrosted. But you can certainly give it a try. I would defrost them and then drain the liquid off well before putting them on your tarts. Otherwise, you may end up with a lot of juices kind of seeping into your frosting and making it look soggy. Yeah, looks good to me. Shall we try? Example, you can let me know.